Hi, everyone, and welcome to our first edition of BookTrib Presents 30 Minutes With. It's a Merrill Moss Media production, and today we are chatting with best-selling author Cathy Gillen Thacker. Cathy is a romance writer with more than 50 published novels. Her Harlequin American and Western romances include more than 13 different series. And on July 5th, Cathy's latest novel in the series Texas Legacies, The Lockharts, was released. And that is called A Texas Soldier's Family. And that is through Harlequin's Western romance titles. Thank you so much for joining us, Cathy. We're so happy to have you.
I'm really happy that you asked me. Thank you.
Of course. So let's jump right into Texas Soldier's Family. Where is this in the Lockhart series, and who are we meeting?
We're meeting Garrett Lockhart, and this is the first book in the series.
Okay.
And it introduces this branch of the Lockhart family.
Excellent. So is this book kind of different in any way from the other books in the series, or whether it's writing style or how the story is set?
I think it opens the story so you get to meet everyone, and it starts in crisis, the crisis that begins in the first book and really doesn't totally wrap up until book 5.
Okay, interesting. So this is all part of the Lockhart series, but this isn't the first in the series. Is that correct?
I have written 48 books set in and around Laramie, Texas, the fictional town that I have created.
Okay.
And so this is the next iteration in that.
Okay, interesting. So do you approach each series differently when you sit down to write them? How do you kind of say, like, okay, I'm in the Lockharts, or I'm in this family?
Well, the McCabe's and the Lockhart started it all.
Okay.
The McCabe's were the 4 sons of John and Lila McCabe, and then they had the answer to the McCabe's, which was the 4 Lockhart women.
Okay.
So the first 2 series were hero-centric and then heroine-centric. And then series since, I've done a series called McCabe Homecoming that centered on the search for home. I've done one about, I did a series called the Lone Star Dads Club, which was about 4 single dads. So it depends on, sometimes they're family, and you have the birth order and all of that goes into that. So it just depends.
Oh, interesting. So what is the kind of dynamic, and who are the 2 kind of main hero and heroine of this story?
Well, there's Garrett Lockhart. He's the oldest son. He's an Army captain, and he's a physician. And he has to make a decision. Is he going to stay in the Army, or is he going to and take a promotion, or is he going to get out and go back to Laramie? Now, he grew up, all the Lockharts grew up in Dallas, but his parents were from Laramie. When his dad died, he left him property. All 5 children were left property in Laramie, and the mother went back to the ranch where she grew up. She's trying to get back to her roots.
Okay.
And so he has his property, and he doesn't know what he's going to do with it, and that's where he starts. There's a family crisis. He's called home. He meets Hope Winslow, who's the crisis manager, who's been hired to do this, and he doesn't think they need one.
Interesting. So how, when you're, say you write, for example, you wrote Texas Soldier's Family, how do you then switch your mindset over to the next book you're going to write? Or do you take time in between? Do you not need much time? How do you make that transition?
Well, when I start a family series, this particular family series has 5 books. So the first book is much harder to write because I have to get to know all 5 of the siblings that are going to be featured,
right?
What their issues are, what their stories are. So I kind of know that. So each subsequent book in the series gets easier to write because I've gotten to know the characters better and better as the series has progressed.
Oh, interesting. For you, do you keep them all separate in your head? I mean, you have so many books. Do you keep them separate in your head? Do you have spreadsheets upon spreadsheets, notes, notebooks? How do you do it?
On my website, CathyGillenThacker.com, there's a McCabe family tree, and there's a Lockhart family tree. And there's also a series guide, which will introduce the readers to each book in every series, and it shows the covers, and it has excerpts and back cover blurbs. So you can read about all the different series, and then there's links if you're interested and want to buy them.
Oh, that's fun. So that must be helpful for you for going back and questioning yourself of
Yes.
what was I talking about?
Yes, I've actually written 120 novels.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so they haven't updated my bio for Harlequin in a while.
Okay. Wow, that's just crazy. How do you keep up with it all? Or are the ideas constantly coming for you? Do you ever have a moment where you're like, I don't actually know what to write about this time around? Or is it just always right there for you?
There are always the story ideas. I keep little notebooks, and if an interesting article comes out in the paper,
Right.
I'll clip it, or in a magazine, or if I see something on the news, or just see something out when I'm out and about, I will make little notes, and then a lot of times those little snippets actually become a book.
Oh, that's so interesting. Do you have like a favorite story that you came across that was like your most inspired, that you love to think back on that and say like, oh, that was just so perfect the way it happened?
Well, I fall in love with every book that I write. And whenever I'm writing a book, I think it's the best thing ever. And then I get to the middle of it and I think it's the worst thing ever. I think it'll never get, finished, that I'm lost in the woods with a flashlight,
Right.
But at the end, I'm usually really happy with the book. But I just focus on what I'm writing on right now.
Oh, that's amazing. So, do you have your own process for starting each book? Do you have a way that you clear your mind or set up? Are you an outline author, writer? What's the way you go about it?
Well, my process has actually changed. I started out writing mysteries, and mysteries, have to be very well plotted at the
Yeah.
beginning. You have to know who all the suspects are and what all the clues are and all of that.
Right.
So that stood me well, but in recent years, it's characterization. So it's all characterization. I know what the conflict is. I know where we begin, and I know where we're going to end up.
Okay.
And then I know what the character arcs are, and I have to get there.
Oh, okay.
So I usually spend 3 weeks writing notes and detailed character analysis. And if it's a book that requires a lot of research, I've written about newborn babies in ICU, and about, I just did a book on bucking bulls. So I had to do a ton of research on bucking bulls. And while I was doing that, of course, a lot of ideas came up on the action in the book.
Okay. So what is that research like for you, that research portion of it? Do you think that sometimes takes up a lot of your time, and then by the time you get past that, you're so ready to write that part's a breeze? Or is it just a combination of both that takes up your time?
I would probably half my time is spent. It takes about 3 months to write a book.
Okay.
And at least half that time is spent doing scene outlines and characterizations and research, and then just getting in there and starting to write. And then there's 3 weeks where it's intense writing, where I'm just really getting the story where I want it.
Right.
And then another 3 weeks of polishing.
Oh, wow. So, speaking of your schedule, it's just a crazy schedule, and you write so many books. On average, do you have like a specific number that you try to reach each year? Is each year different dependent on the book you're writing? How does that work for you?
Normally, I would write 3 to 4 books a year, more often 4.
Okay.
This last year, I wrote 3 because we had some renovations done on our house. And I decided 3 months of renovations and writing just weren't going to mesh. So I took a little time off and actually planned the series that I'm writing right now.
Oh, that's amazing. So Texas is a pretty heavy theme for you. I'm pretty sure it's in almost all of your books. Do you try do you live in Texas, or have you lived there?
I lived there for 18 years
Okay.
with my husband and my children. And then we moved to North Carolina.
Okay.
And I still love Texas. It's my favorite place in the world.
Do you go back often?
Not as often as I'd like.
Okay. What made you want to start writing, whether it was Western or American? What made you want to get into romance?
Well, I was a young mother and I had 2 toddlers. And I'd been an English major in college. And so I thought, I'll just make money writing short stories. I had no clue how hard it was to get a short story published. So I sat down every day at nap time and started writing. And 3 months later, I had a very bad novel. But I realized I was not a short story writer. I was a novelist. And from then, I just knew it was what I wanted to do. So I just kept at it.
Wow. So what do you do as far as how do you approach a standalone, or do you just approach every book that you write that it's going to be a part of a series, or do you prefer series over standalone? How do you navigate that?
I prefer series now. I actually don't know how many series I've done. I'd have to go to my website and look to tell you. But I like that bigger canvas.
Okay.
And I also like the fast-paced read. So if you're writing 5, you could have one giant family saga that was 1,000 pages long.
Right.
Or you could have 5 225-page books.
Right. Absolutely.
About the family, and you could get a really good sense of the family. So that's basically what I'm doing.
Okay. What's the hardest part, in your opinion, for the way you go about writing? Is it that beginning portion, the middle? Does the ending hook you up? What's your hookup?
It's usually the middle. I just go back to the saying, I feel like I'm lost in the woods without a flashlight or a compass or a map. And I despair that it's never going to all work out. And then eventually I will get through it. And I just have to keep trying. And sometimes I'm writing the wrong things. Occasionally I have started a book and gotten 3 chapters in and realized there was a fundamental flaw in my thinking and had to go back and redo the beginning. And that's always so hard.
What does that do to kind of your process in that moment of writing that book? Does that like really set you back? Does that fire you up to continue? What does that do to you?
I just want to get it right. The stories are very real to me. When I'm writing a book, I can see the people. It's like a mind movie.
Right.
So I see it in my head like you would watch a movie.
Okay.
And so I want to get it right. And so sometimes I realize I've started off with the wrong focus, or I've started the story where it really doesn't start, maybe too soon or too late. Most of my books now start with action and conflict between the hero and heroine.
Okay.
So I just jump right into the story.
Was that something you learned early on that was kind of your theme?
Jane Ann Krentz always started her books with action. And a long time ago, I saw one of her workshops at RWA, and she talked about that. And I realized that's what grabbed me about her books, was that they started with action, usually conflict between the hero and the heroine right away. You didn't have to read 12 pages or 15 pages to even meet them.
Right.
Some books it'll be three chapters before the hero and heroine even meet. And,
exactly.
And I think you might lose readers that way. People want to know what the story is.
Absolutely.
They want to see that clash right away.
Yeah, that instant gratification, if you will, definitely. What's for you, what do you feel like would be your best piece of advice, maybe for a romance author starting out, or just someone trying to decide if romance is their genre? What would you say would be the best thing to start with?
Well, I think you should always write what you love to read. Or if you can't find it, then write what you would want to read if you could only find it.
Right.
But so if you love romance novels, that's your thing. If you love mystery novels or psychological thrillers, then that's what you should be writing. My advice would be don't write something that you don't absolutely love, because
Absolutely.
it's too much hard work. You have to put your heart in every book. And if it's something that you don't really like, you don't really respect it. If you don't respect it, the writing is just not going to be what it could be.
Right, exactly. What's your favorite type? I think I know this answer, but what's your favorite type of hero? Is it cowboy, or do you like other kind of heroes? I know you write quite a bit about cowboys, so.
Yeah. I what is about the cowboy? He's a stand-up guy.
Mm,
He's courageous. He's got straightforward. He's strong. He's determined. He's everything a man should be. He's an alpha man, but he's just a wonderful man. He could be a family man. He could be a
right.
soldier, whatever. But I just love the stand-up guy, and a guy that can make you laugh. That's even better.
Absolutely. Is that what you look for also in your romantic leads when you're reading, not just when you're writing? Do you look for that same quality in your heroes?
Yes, yes. I always want the stand-up guy. I don't want the you know, you can be a stand-up guy and still be a little broken, or
Yeah,
have had a really rough childhood, but I don't want anyone who is cruel,
right.
or, some of the European heroes tend to be a little,
Mm,
you know,
rough around the edges.
yes, a little more rough around the edges. And my heroes are very tough to tangle with. Let's just put it
Mm.
that way. But they're always worth it in the end.
What's your writing space like in your home? Are you separated from the family? Are you within the family, or do you get out of the house to write? How do you navigate that?
I have a study downstairs. I'm up and next to the internet connection in the bonus room doing this interview. But I have a study downstairs, and I also share an office space with my husband outside of the house. So if I need to just go, seek quiet there, I
Right.
can.
Absolutely. Who are the authors that you personally love to read? You just absolutely grab a new book every time it comes out. Is there anyone that you follow religiously? Who's on your kind of reading go-to?
I like Lisa Kleypas. Kleypas.
Yes.
I like her contemporary books a whole lot. Susan Elizabeth Phillips, Jane Ann Krantz. I read a lot of Barbara Breton. And recently, Jill Shalvis
Oh, I
and
love Jill.
Kristen Higgins. And
Another good one.
I'm blanking. There are a lot of them. I have a huge
Yeah.
stack of books I'm always reading.
I was just going to say, what do you have right now on that to be read pile?
Uh, well, actually, I'm reading a memoir about a Senate lawyer that went back to help out with her father's medical practice. It's called Heart of the Matter.
Oh,
Can't remember her name, but it's very absorbing. It's rural Tennessee,
okay.
but it's about the difference between her life in D.C. and in
Oh,
Tennessee, where she grew up.
very nice. What's the best interaction that you've had with a fan, or has a fan ever come up to you and just absolutely just gone crazy for your books? What sticks out in your mind?
Well, really two incidents. One, I was at RWA doing a signing, and someone came up to me and was so excited to have a new McCabe book. And she said she would put it in her McCabe closet. And I did a double take. I mean, I have written a lot of books, but she
Right.
said she had a special closet for the McCabe novels.
Oh,
So that was really flattering. And the other was a young woman that came up to me and said that I, I would have no idea what my books meant to her growing up.
oh, how
So
sweet.
she said she had a rough life, and just reading about the families in my books gave her hope. So
Oh,
that
that's
was,
amazing.
yeah, it was wonderful.
What have you not written right now that would be on your writing goals? Is there something that you've yet to write that you say, one day I'm putting it off, but I'll get there?
Um, I have pretty much written every type of book. I published 5 murder mysteries, and I've written a couple longer contemporary books. And I really like working in the series with the families in the more complicated
Right.
storylines. Um, my big goal is to make it to 150 books. I used to say I wanted to publish 75, and then I said, well, maybe I should publish 100. And now I would like to really at least get to 150.
Well,
So,
you're up there. You're getting close. Little year by year, you're getting there.
yes.
So speaking of, let's talk a little bit about what you do have coming up next. I think I saw that you have a release in September, if I'm correct, Home on the Ranch.
No.
Okay.
That's probably someone else in the series. I have, I think it's a Texas Cowboys Christmas,
Okay.
which is maybe November, is the second book in the series. And the third book in the series is in February, and it's the Texas Valentine twins. I'm writing the fourth book in the series right now, and the fourth and fifth will be out in 2017.
Amazing. So much to look forward to. What about this is a new series essentially, even though also taking place in the same town. But anything else that you're excited to get to, or next summer will be a whole new ball game for you?
Well, I'm already thinking ahead to my new series, and it will. All I can tell you for sure is that it'll be set in Laramie County,
Okay.
because readers have gotten very attached to the town and the county and all the ranches there. And there's a lot of recurring characters in my books and places. So it's very familiar to them.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely.
got the small town wonderfulness, but the rugged Western West Texas landscape.
I think there's something really great about that, because I think that not only do you have that for those who know it and love it and want to read more about it, but you also have it for those who don't know it and are intrigued by it and have to constantly read about it because they love it in their stories. So I think you hit best of both worlds with it.
Yeah, Laramie is a kind of utopian community. Um, the people there are human and they're flawed, but it's neighbor looking out for neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone cares about everyone else. Everyone else knows everyone else's business.
Right.
That's kind
Right.
of the bad thing. But it's just a great place to live. It's the kind of place everybody, it's community. And I think everyone loves their community, even if you live in
Right.
the city. For a couple years, my husband and I lived in a high rise in the DC area. And the apartment community was just as close knit as small towns I've lived in.
That's amazing. Well, thank you so much. We have come to the end of our 30-minute chat with Cathy Gillen Thacker. Thank you so much for joining us. And we really look forward to hopefully getting to chat again. And everyone go out and grab Texas Legacies, the Lockharts. It is Texas Soldiers Family, and so lovely, really exciting. Thank you again so much for joining us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Have a great night.
You too.
Thanks.